Dear Diary, you always forget how terrible it is to cry yourself to sleep until it happens. It's just the ultimate feeling of helplessness, but what's new there, right? I just miss her. Even if she scared me, I miss her so damn much. Jaehua was the only one who was sympathetic to me. Why did she have to die? Is that my fate? Anything that makes whatever short life I have left bearable must go? Fate just hates me, I've decided. I don't know what killed her. I overheard one of the servants saying that the doctor claimed it was too much worry, causing an excess of wood in the spleen. What he claimed to be common in oversensitive women. I was baffled by the absurdity at the time. I still am now. My only friend is dead, and her diagnosis is absolutely insane. What do you even say to something like that? Well, I guess it's not like I need to worry about knowing what to say. But in light of that, it doesn't surprise me that nobody ever believed I was sick. With medicine that stupid, why would they? Why would they? All it does is reinforce how helpless everything is. I just constantly wonder, why did my father or my own doctor think that people would be smarter in the future, that medicine would be better? My servant has been helping me through all the funeral stuff. Well, I mean, she's been guiding me through the rites. Practically doing them for me, really. I'm so weak and so stunned, I don't even know how I've been getting out of bed. I couldn't describe any of the ceremony, it's all a blur. There's been lots of black dress. I suppose that's my only impression. And crying. Lots of crying. From me. I don't... I don't... I don't really have anything to add to that. She didn't deserve to die. Jeez. Excess of wood? What is that even supposed to mean? Look. Please, do you trust me? Please understand my position at the time. My world was so small, and I'd just lost my only friend. And then well, I'll give you my last two diary entries. They have the whole story. Just please, don't judge me while you read them, please. Dear Diary, this sounds so pathetic to say. I tried rewriting this a million times just to make it sound less pathetic for me, and I simply cannot. There were two things that made life worthwhile, two things that made this last year before I die be bearable. The first was Jaewa's company, being the one person that was friendly to me. The second is sharing a bed with my husband. For the past few months, that's what I've been saving all my energy for. That brief, precious half hour every few nights when I feel fulfilled. It's only in the most literal sense. It's the most lovely feeling, and now I'll never feel it again. The two things making my last year of life worth living gone forever. The past few nights I've been trying to get the Emperor's attention in that way, pleading silently for his affections, with no luck. On the fourth, or was it the fifth day, he finally took me aside and said, painful annoyance in his voice, "Enough, stop that, it is completely inappropriate. You're supposed to be in mourning, show some damn chastity, or do you have no respect for my wife and your queen at all," he snapped. When I looked confused, he just lectured me. When I cried, he sighed, held me tightly, then left the room. I haven't spoken to him since, but later that day, my servant came to my room with good news. I was to go visit my family for a couple months, while the house is in mourning for Jaehua. I couldn't argue, of course, even if I was able. So just like that, I was sent back to hell. I was dressed in the usual veil, so nobody would see my face, as I was escorted back to the Kim house in the middle of the night. Mother and father were there briefly to greet me, and in spite of how I felt about them, I put on my bravest smile and bowed, and nodded politely to their questions about how I was doing. They then had to go to bed and left, leaving me alone with sister. Young Suk was nowhere to be seen. "Hi," she said. "I never thought you'd end up visiting us again so soon." I shrugged. "Well, let's have some tea. It's just us around," she said. I nodded. It seemed like a good idea, and a good enough idea. There was a pause. "Well, go make it," she snapped, removing any doubt that she might treat me with any sort of friendliness. Of course I made the tea. I don't disobey her anymore. "Thanks," she said. "So young Suk is out, attending to official business at the moment, but you should avoid him. He's still angry at you because father-in-law finds you more important to the family than his own son. Can you blame him?" I had no idea what she was talking about, and she just continued. "So you really shouldn't talk to him. Oh, I guess you can't really do that, can you?" Well, you know what I mean. Yes, I knew exactly what she meant. "I'm surprised you're back so soon, though, especially now that you don't have to share your husband. Does that mean you're the primary wife? I didn't know. Does that make you queen? Oh, what great fortune you have. Father-in-law must be so proud of you." I stared at her, wishing nothing more than to be able to kill her through sheer force of rage. How could she possibly say something so awful? My only friend was dead, and here she was taunting me. What an awful thing to do. But I couldn't hate her to death, no matter how much I tried. So instead I tried holding back angry tears. To hide my weakness, I couldn't do that either. Just please, keep reading. I think we read that already. Yeah, we did. Well, so, there you are then. Now you know, it's true, I did do what she said I did. I'm not going to lie. I really wish you'd never met her. I wish she'd never said anything to you. I just thought it was so nice the way things were with us before. Things started out so well. I got to be cheery for the first time in my life since I was a child. Talking about actual romantic things together. Having fun with cosplay. And just, having someone there to talk to. Someone who wasn't interested in shutting me up. But now, well, please, you read my diary. You have to know it's not. I didn't. You have to understand, right? Even if you think what I did was wrong, look, I've never really been dishonest with you. Fine, I lied about being an AI, but I told you the truth. I could have deceived you, but didn't. Please, you still trust me, right? I'd never really lied to you, not seriously. You don't have to think what I did was acceptable, but please tell me you trust me. I trust you. You do? Really? Oh my word, I mean, of course. I'm so sorry. I should have had faith in you. I really should have. I'm really bad at this. But thank you so much. I can't believe I've even doubted you for a second. Look, that means a lot to me. It means so much. I mean, I'm sure what I did wasn't right. I know. I'm sure you don't think it was. I just want you to understand, right? For someone as good to me as you've been, I want you to at least please understand. You don't have to forgive me. Just hear me out. Of course. Thank you so much. You're a really good person. Much better than me. Thank you. Then very well. It's probably just better if I show you. There's a data block that contains all the logs that matter, but my family encrypted it because, well, it should be obvious why after you read it. You need to drop it to the terminal and type decrypt block 7. Let me know once you've done that, and I'll show you. Ow. Fuck. To the man who will marry my husband. As you are doubtlessly aware, it is traditional for a nobleman's mother to write poetic admonitions to be sent to the bride-to-be before she enters the family, explaining the circumstances and proffering advice to her. Sadly, your mother-in-law is long since departed, leaving the responsibility in my hands. I never had any such letter sent to me, for reasons which I'll explain soon enough, and I have furthermore studied verse only enough to know that I am unable to write it well. I hope you do not think less of me, young pale bride, for addressing these letters in plain speech instead. Rather pay attention to my words over my form, and please do not be hasty in erasing these letters after reading for your own sake. I hope you find the advice and knowledge I will impart on you useful. Yeah, alright, damn. To the woman who will marry my husband. As you are no doubt aware, the Ryu family has an extremely long and proud history. Every man to hold the title Captain and Emperor has always been of our house, and you are here to make sure that continues for another generation. The name goes all the way back to the ancient times. Mythology speaks of a Captain Ryu who had control of even the ship's movement through the stars themselves. Such things remain far removed from everyday life, but it is important to understand the significance of the house and of the title that your first son will eventually come to inherit. To the woman who will marry my husband. It is an obvious matter that I do have the same family name as my husband. The official story, if you have not already heard it, is that we are cousins, making our marriage improper and less than ideal, but somewhat acceptable given the circumstances. At the time, there were no noble daughters who had not already been promised or given away in marriage, and obviously a girl of any lesser upbringing could not possibly be suitable as a queen, hence cousins would simply have to do. Strictly speaking, this is all true. The part about there not being any noble daughters available is not a misrepresentation, and as far as any official genealogy is concerned, the Emperor is the son of my father's brother. The part which you may not speak of openly is that he is the old Emperor's son only by adoption. As far as blood goes, my husband is also my brother. As children, we never lived together, and it would, of course, have been strictly improper to have spent any time together at that age. I would never say anything such as that my husband actually arranged for there to be no noble daughters to marry out of his desire to marry me. That would, of course, be a rather bold move to accuse an emperor of such, but you may wish to consider what the implications might be if such a thing truly did happen. I leave it to you to decide whether or not such a thing is plausible. All I will say is that, despite our marriage being one necessity, my husband has always been very fond of me. To the woman who will marry my husband. As for responsibilities, your burden will be quite light. You will, of course, be expected to be the model of feminine virtue, but truthfully, I do not expect you will have very much trouble with this. So long as you keep your head down, avoid scandal, and keep quiet, that will more than suffice. As far as the day-to-day is concerned, you will have nothing to concern yourself with, as this is the royal family you are marrying into. As queen, I run the management of the house's affairs, and will not require any assistance from you in that regard. As part of a royal concubine's demonstration of modesty, you will have to share in my own personal servant, and will not have one of your own. While you will not have to be responsible for all housework, be modest, and do not remain idle at her expense. You are expected to be as unseen as the servants, and to be voiceful only in the most moderation. Do not speak harshly to your servant, and be appreciative of what she does, and not incompassionate. Your one sole responsibility will be spending as much time with the Emperor as it takes to produce a son. After you give birth, you will not need to worry about raising him. I will be there to make sure that is all arranged for. Simply make our husband happy, keep out of sight, and give him a son, and you will have no more to worry yourself with. To the woman who will marry my husband. The virtues which you are expected to demonstrate are simply those expected of any woman, and given your noble upbringing, I will not condescend to treat you as if you do not already know them quite well. You are expected to be quiet and obedient, to me as well as obviously to our husband. Perchance you are scolded, trust my judgment as your elder. I will not act out of anger or spite. If scolded by our husband, always respond with a smile, for your relationship with him must always be warm, and he is a wise man. I do not, however, anticipate such things will be problems. He told me of the interview in which he spoke to you, and had nothing to report at all on your manner of speech, so I trust it was entirely proper and polite. In light of that, I will say nothing further of the matter. As far as ritual obligations go, you have none, save for following in my lead. Both your mother and father-in-law are long dead, so you have no further obligations to them. I had trouble adjusting at first, but I anticipate nothing you could be surprised by. To the woman who will marry my husband. I will not tell you to avoid court politics entirely, so long as you do not cause trouble, but I will suggest that you simply watch from a distance. The temptation may exist to meddle, especially if you ever talk to the artificial girl, Mute, who lives inside our computer. She is a gossip and a friend of the Smith noble family, and is responsible for revealing much of what they try to keep hidden. She may seem fickle, but she does belong to the House of Ryu, first and foremost, and is quite loyal. Nevertheless, meddling is not in your best interests. Do not play politics, not only for our sake, or for the sake of being a virtuous wife, but for the sake of your own family as well. They will receive favor not through any scheming on your part, but through our husband's will. Entertain yourself with gossip if you wish, so long as you keep quiet about it, but stay out of politics. In the end, you will manage to go much further if you rely only on rewards for being a good wife. To the woman who will marry my husband. But please, do not think all of this is meant to say you will be unloved. You may be a second wife, but you are still the daughter of a noble house, and that is a precious gift to the Ryu family. My husband has faith that you will bring him a son, and this means all the world to him. Nor am I jealous, for you will relieve a heavy burden on our house, and for that I am grateful. Oh, okay, I've already read that. Why did you kill all those people? Very well. These are really hard for me to read. I haven't seen mine since I wrote them, and I haven't seen my family's, well, ever. Well, I think I found here. I've added some. Just please read them. If you want to know the whole story, those entries will explain. It seems that in the year I spent visiting my parents, everything has gone to hell in my husband's family without his knowing. Clearly, I never should have left. He has an idea, but he doesn't understand just how bad things have gotten. When I left, it all seemed under control. The pale bride would be of the right age to be married to the emperor soon enough, and we would be able to use that connection to bring favor to the family. A good plan, except it turns out the pale bride is not even close to ready for marriage. Age has nothing to do with it, it's the maturity that she lacks. When she first awoke, right at before I left, she seemed a little confused, but that was hardly unexpected. She had a whole new family to get accustomed to, and it seemed obvious enough that anyone born so far in the past would have some difficulty adjusting to modern life. But this is far beyond that. There was something simply wrong with that child. When I got back, the first thing young Suck's wife did was tell me all about how sorry she was for not being able to control a child. I rolled my eyes, as if a grown woman couldn't handle someone of her age. How are you going to raise my grandson like that? I asked. She was quiet and let me see the pale bride for myself. The first time I saw young Suck try to get her to do something as simple as sort out the laundry, she wasn't just disobedient, she was openly defiant. When I stepped in to admonish her, it had absolutely no effect. Kaylee, I just fed you. What's the matter, baby girl? Oh, you're so gross. I would bathe you. All she did was argue back at me. I tried every approach I could think of, appealing to filiality, explaining how important a virtue obedience was, even trying to appeal to sentimentality, everything. She just kept saying the same thing, that it wasn't fair to make her do it. Here's the obvious concern, and it's what I said to her. Are you going to tell your husband he's being fair when he wants something from you? I thought that would put some sense into her, but no, she just answered yes. There's no way this unruly child could possibly be marriageable. Not like this. She'd be sent back within a day, and with good reason. What man could possibly want a nightmare like her in his life? Mother, huh? I don't really know what to say about her, even now. This is the first time I've read what she wrote, and it's just... Well, there's more. Here, read them for yourself. Dear Diary, the good news is, health-wise, I seem to be doing much better this month. I'm sure this isn't a permanent thing, it's happened before. I can't really remember how the doctor from the past explained it anymore, but he said it was pretty normal, and not something to get my hopes up about. Still, some days this month I've actually had enough energy to want to move around. Not that I could move around, of course. I can't leave the house. A good girl shouldn't, is what everyone keeps saying, but I have the energy to, at least. And that's... something. The big news is that the woman who's supposed to be my adopted mother came back. I don't really see her much before she left. I might as well have been meeting a new person. I wish I could say I had high hopes for her, that I had thought that maybe she'd be fine. That'd be a lie, though. I knew she'd be as bad as the rest the moment I saw her. And she was, of course, she was. She's even worse than sister-in-law. She gives these awful lectures. I can't even describe them. They're that horrible. She's that horrible. If you're so worried, why don't you just explain everything to her, simply and rationally? Chung-Su asked me. My response was obvious. She's a woman. We're not particularly rational, he said. You know what I mean. I could hardly do it. But coming from a woman, maybe she will understand that it's all for her own good. Maybe I said, doubting it. But I tried anyway. She took her time arriving after I summoned her to my room. Can we speak? I asked her, trying to keep my voice calm. She glared, then snapped. Fine. I asked her to sit down, but she refused. Look, I said, trying to speak to her as an equal. I still didn't think my husband was right, but it was worth trying. I've been told you'd rather be called Hyun-A. Is that right? She said yes, bitterly, not giving me much to go off. That's a very pretty name, I said. Thanks, she said, but her voice was still unfriendly. My parents gave it to me, I said. You must miss them very much. She nodded. I don't understand, Hyun-A. Were you so difficult with them too? No, she said. They were nice. They actually cared about me. They're nothing like you people, I sighed. I care about you, Hyun-A. You're part of the family. You're a Kim. Your parents are our ancestors, and I know they think it's very important that we raise you right. If you want to be a bad, unfilial daughter and treat us without any respect, well, you wouldn't be the first. Do you really think an old woman like me really cares that much about your opinion of me? I thought maybe I'd try appealing to her selfishness. Her marriage is important to the family, but clearly she doesn't care about filiality. It's you I'm worried about. Do you think any husband is really going to put up with the way you are, even for a second? She kept glaring at me. That's all you keep talking about. Marriage, marriage, marriage. I'm 14. I'm 14 years old. What's wrong with you? Why does everything have to be about some man? Why do I have to marry somebody that you picked? She screamed at me. I remained calm. You're going to be a royal concubine, Hyun-A. We're not dumping you off on just anyone. There's no better man. I don't know if you were already engaged in the past, but your parents would do the same. If they could, it's what's best for you. They would want this. No, they wouldn't, she shrieked. They wanted me to grow up. They wanted me to be an independent woman. That's what Mom and Dad thought it was important. I don't want to be a concubine. I don't care about marriage. An independent woman. They want you to be a whore? I asked, my patience run as thin as anyone's would be. I didn't believe for a second my husband's ancestors were the monsters she was making them out to be, and was sick of this. Get out, I snapped. Just get out. Are you showing me this because you want to see more from her? Yes. Oh, well, in that case, there's nothing I can do. She didn't really write about me that much. There's nothing else of hers in here that's really relevant. You've seen it all. Sorry. There was one big fight I had with her. The one that changed everything. The one I finally lost. My diary makes it sound really dramatic. I know I was young at the time, but it really was. Just read it. It's exactly how it went. Dearest Mother, my mother-in-law has relieved me of any responsibility for looking after the pale bride. As a matter of pride, I feel bad that simple child is too much for me to handle, but I'm certainly glad she's not my problem anymore. Now I can put my undivided attention back where it belongs, onto my husband and his ambitions. Tell me, though, Mother, because I know we didn't always get along that well. I was never that bad, was I? Sure, we were both happy when I moved out. Well, perhaps I wasn't happy right away. I was more scared. But I'm sure you were relieved to have some space. But you would never have given up on me, right? I was never that bad, was I? Deep down, I worry. My husband seems content to take his time to have children, and which is a decision I can certainly live with. But what about when we do? What if we have a daughter? Will I feel with her too? I've been telling myself that it's not me, it's her. She's a peculiarly unruly child, and it's not ordinarily that bad. It's not, right? Please tell me I have nothing to worry about, please. You know, I never did like her. When I woke up, she was just this awful person who kept saying the most awful things. Never as bad as Mother, but still. I didn't read any of her letters when I was alive, of course, but you know what really surprised me? She made such an awful impression on my life. I hated her the most for so long, and she barely ever mentioned me. All my suffering, it was just a minor distraction to her, nothing more. Insignificant compared to her man. There's one more from her that you should read. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to feel about her. There's just one thing that I keep thinking, though. Just one thing. I have no idea what her name was. Dear Diary, everything managed to spiral out of control so quickly today. I wasn't planning on it happening this way, but here's the point where I make my stand, I guess. It sounds dramatic, but I won't just let them marry me off to some stranger. I won't let them. Just before dinner yesterday, Mother told me that I had to go to an interview with some man. The Emperor, I guess, for all I care. The way she put it, it was, I'd get a chance to see that he's a man you could fall in love with, or something stupid like that. As if, I said in response, and I spent the rest of the evening thinking about what I could possibly do to make it clear I wouldn't let them do this. This morning after breakfast, sister-in-law showed up in my room. Good morning, she said. Today's a big day for you, isn't it? Mother-in-law wanted me to help you get dressed and all made up. You'll want to make a good first impression after all. I glared at her and summoned up all my courage. No, I said. What? She asked. No, I'm not going. She laughed and Mother herself came in. This was it. I told myself this was the big moment. I'm not going, I said, before she could say anything. I'm not going to get dressed up. I'm not going to meet him. I'm definitely not going to get married, I shouted. For a moment she said nothing and didn't move. Then she left too without saying a word. I thought that would feel good, but it didn't. It just made me worry more. I couldn't have possibly won that easily, I thought, and I hadn't, of course. After a few minutes, she returned with Father, who looked incredibly angry. Min Jung says you're refusing to get ready for your interview, he said. Yeah, I stammered, not used to talking to him. I won't. What is going on over there? Zoe? Are you stuck back there? Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I stammered, not used to talking to him. I won't go. I won't, and I won't get married. He walked over in just 2 strides, then glared at me for a second. I had no idea what he was going to do. Then he slapped me in the face so hard that it knocked me over. Yes, you will, he said. I'll drag you there kicking and screaming if I have to. My face was in so much pain, I forced myself to sit back up. I won't, I said, bracing myself for if he hit me again. He did. Yes, you will, he said. I just couldn't keep this up. It already hurt so much, I couldn't just brave that out. Then it came to me. If you make me do the interview, I said, I'll tell the Emperor that you've been conspiring behind his back. It was all I could think of, and all I could do was cross my fingers and hope that the threat worked. It had to. He glared at me, and in that moment I knew. It worked. The two of them looked at each other, and they both left together. That was 3 hours ago. I don't know what's going to happen now, and I think my face is swollen. It still hurts. I don't want it to go that way. So that's me making my stand. I'll get to that, but for now, please just look at everything else first. The pale bride picked the worst of all possible days to throw another one of her childish fits, refusing to even get dressed for her interview, and this one was with the Emperor himself. And even my husband was able to get her to listen. He had to personally apologize himself for not being able to bring her as scheduled and lied about a sudden illness. "You have to do something about her," I said to my husband that evening. "She's completely out of control." "I know," he said. "That is quite clear." He looked so worried. I hugged him and tried to comfort him. Everything would fall apart if something couldn't be done. She threatened to say something stupid and dangerous to the Emperor, and we were both scared that she might. "Maybe it's time to consider doing something drastic," I said to him. He nodded. "I know," he said. "I can only think of one idea. I do not like it. I would rather not. Even hitting her was far worse than I would have wanted." He explained his idea to me, and I agreed that it was terrible, and I didn't like it either, but it would stop her from arguing, stop her from ruining her own life. My husband was, as always, right. There was only one way. Recently, the pale bride's temperament has improved immensely. It isn't simply that she's now quiet, it's that she's actually respectful and calmer. After rescheduling, she had an interview with the Emperor, and he was actually quite charmed with her. I'm just so happy for her own sake that she finally stopped resisting the marriage. It's all coming together now. A date has been set for when she'll be sent to live with him, and in the meantime, things at home have been peaceful again for everyone. Actually, it's better than just that. I've been spending more time with her, of her own free will. I've been giving her advice for coping with marriage, and now the girl actually listens politely. Otherwise, there was little else to write about. I wish there had been a better way to get her to behave, but in the end, it seems to be working out. I still can't imagine how awful it would be if she'd refused to ever leave the home, and simply made life hell for us, or worse. If she got sent off and tried to pull any of that on her husband, she'd get sent back for sure. Maybe now, things will finally start to come together for the family. I must admit for a time, I doubted the optimism that Chung Su expressed in the 319th year, but now it seems that he was right all along. What a relief. Of her own free will. I can't believe she actually said that. It's wrong. It's completely wrong. I can't believe she could have possibly thought that Just unbelievable. Dearest Mother, today the pale bride finally left home to live with her new husband. As she isn't a primary wife, there was no fanfare or ceremony for her departure itself, so instead last night we had a special big feast to commemorate. I know I have said bad things about her before, but it's not just that I was happy to see her gone. She's been better since mother and father-in-law managed to get her to keep quiet. The thought of it still leaves me really uncomfortable. She was always just a confused child. I hate the fact that my family considers her so important and neglects my husband and I hate the fact that my family considers her so important and neglects my husband. I certainly hate her for not appreciating the status and fighting it. But the fact that she doesn't understand the world, I can feel for that. It's not like I always understand myself. Regardless, it went very well. The big feast was my idea, and she was happy to help with the cooking. Earlier, she had spent the afternoon getting ready the dress she was going to wear when she arrived, with mother-in-law, and she seemed rather anxious about it. While we cooked, I opened the wine early and poured it for her. I think she needed it. I told her the same story I told you a while ago about how scared I was when I first moved in. It seems as though it was a lifetime ago, and yet despite all the strangeness, I have grown accustomed to it. You will eventually grow to love him, I promised her, just as you promised me all those years ago. Appreciate how good you'll have it. You've read almost everything now. I know you've had faith in me, and I promise it hasn't been misplaced. Zoe-Zo, what's the matter? There's just one more thing. I don't think you'll be surprised. You seem smart. I'm sure you've already guessed what it is. Still, go ahead. Ask it. Ask me the obvious question. They cut out your tongue. Okay. How do I ask you then? Wait, this question? Why did I kill them? Here, you want to know what could make me look at my father's face and be filled with so much hatred? You want to know how I could possibly think my whole family deserved to die? If you haven't already guessed, here's my last diary entry. I can't say it myself. I can't bring myself to, even now. Please just read it. Dear Diary, the evening where everything went wrong, where I thought I was going to win with my adopted parents. Well, I didn't. I lost. Making my stand, I wrote just hours before it happened. Yeah, right. When I got called into the kitchen, they were both there. On one of the stove burners, there was a knife. I thought it was a little bit odd, but didn't care. Father stared at me and said, "The fighting needs to end now." He was so sure of himself. Of course he was. He had every reason to be. But I stubbornly stood my ground. I said no. "I don't want to hurt you," he lied. "Just promise to be less argumentative, and this can end peacefully." But I just had to fight back. I just had to say no. I just had to remind him I wasn't joking. I really will tell the Emperor that you hurt me and that you plotted against him. "No," he said, "you won't." He motioned at Mother and said, "Bring her over." She grabbed me, and I tried to dig my feet in, but it didn't work. Then Father pinned me against the wall with his whole body, and I kicked and screamed, desperately trying to get free, but it was no use. He was big, and I was small and sick and weak and frail. Then he grabbed the knife from the stove, and I shrieked in horror. "No," I screamed at him, "don't." But then Mother grabbed my mouth and held it open. I tried to keep screaming, but I was powerless and terrified. When he raised the knife towards me, I thought he was going to kill me. It was worse. The next thing I knew, I could taste disgusting flesh as he stuck his fingers in my mouth and pulled. "I'm sorry," Mother said. Then briefly I could taste the seal. Then nothing but blood. All I could taste was so much blood. Nothing but blood. Finally they both let go of me, and I collapsed onto the floor. Why, I wanted to say, but couldn't. I blacked out from the pain after that. But just before I did, I could swear I heard Father say, "You will not ever argue with any man again." He was right, of course. That's why. That's why I gave up. That's why I wanted to kill them so much. Sorry, it's really hard to talk about. It's just I'll try, I'm sorry. I told you it'd make sense, right? That there was a good reason? Please tell me you don't think I've let you down. You haven't. I haven't? You mean you understand then? Well, thank you so much. That really means so much to me. I'm so glad. I don't think, I don't know what I'd do if you didn't think, well, thank you. Thank you so much. I was terrified. So terrified I thought you might not. I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, can we just talk a little more instead? There's something really important I need to, tell you. Hi, baby girl. What's up? Right. I have, it's, I, whoa, 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 calm down. I have really strong feelings about